So yeah, it finally happened. The Native Instruments Kontrol S61 Mark III is here, and I am extremely fortunate to have one. I feel kind of like MKBHD. I've had this for a few weeks. The software has been in beta, so I haven't been having the entire user experience that you could have when you buy it, but I have had a pretty awesome time with it so far. I have a feeling there's gonna be a lot of videos on the internet about this thing today, or this week, whenever this goes up, and I don't need to be hyper redundant. That said, I do want to talk about just a few things that I think are really cool about this. And the first one is just navigating through it. The Mark II, which I really loved, had these two split screens similar to the Machine, and I really like having this whole cohesive single screen experience. And I think it just creates a way better UI that feels a lot more like an instrument instead of just a spreadsheet at the bottom with a JPEG on the side. You know, this is still just an image right now, but there's a lot more you can do on a navigation level, a lot more options depending on if plugins have been updated to NKS2 or not. And in general, I think it does a better job of feeling like a hardware extension of your software, which is always what these keyboards have done and what any good MIDI keyboard can do. But it leverages complete control in a way that does really turn any NKS compatible plugin into even more of a hardware instrument than it was before. Now, it should definitely be noted that I got this keyboard for free from Native Instruments. I just think there's an inherent bias there that needs to be recognized. Like, I think it's an awesome product and there's a lot I like about it, and there's basically nothing I don't like about it. Besides the fact that it would be really cool if it was somehow also standalone, but that would put it in an entirely different category of device. But that said, I just think it's really important that you know I got the keyboard for free, and therefore I cannot be unbiased, if that makes sense. I actually highly recommend watching Loopop's video, which is kind of an evergreen statement, but he continues to make the best hardware and software, synth, drum machine, any music tech reviews. Loopop is the guy. I think we're all in his shadow. And I'm especially a bit more of a hobbyist, I think, than someone like Loopop. I will say that this is essentially the sequel to my favorite MIDI keyboard. I was using the Mark II for a while. Native Instruments also sent me the Mark II. And so again, it's really important to know and recognize that I have some bias here. But this is absolutely a device I would buy with my own money if I didn't get it for free, because it essentially has a bunch of features that I really hoped a MIDI keyboard, and specifically a new Native Instruments MIDI keyboard, would have. The big ones are just a way better screen and interface, but Poly Aftertouch is really cool as well. There's not a ton of Native Instruments plugins that have Poly Aftertouch, although Fables does, but I think it just opens the door to even more possibilities with this device down the line. The mod wheel and pitch wheel are both metal now, and they feel really good. If you've ever used the Machine Plus, they feel like the Machine Plus encoders, as do these metal encoders, which makes sense because I think they're basically the same. They're also touch sensitive, which is cool, capacitive, I would guess. And this primary encoder is also metal. Something to note about my DAW setup is that I don't currently have a laptop. I run everything off of this NZXT desktop that I have and this Audient ID14 interface. And then I use a MIDI keyboard of choice right now, of course, the Kontrol Mark III. And then I use that in conjunction with, you know, my monitor up here with my Ableton running and my mouse and keyboard. And so I will say that I have tended to gravitate towards my DAW-less corner over here because I like just having a single device in standalone by itself and being able to just use that. Going back into DAW land, I sometimes find it cumbersome, partially just because of my personal setup. But I will say, because so much of the control can be handled on the control, no pun intended, and because it does just feel a lot more like controlling hardware, I just find it to kind of make the DAW experience feel a little bit more DAW-less and hybrid in a cool way. I also really love, and I've talked about this in my videos about the Mark II, but I love that the NKS standard includes brands like Arturia. Because of that, if you have something like the V Collection, you also have all of those plugins available here. Now, right now, they have this kind of weird dash line background. My understanding is if these were to be updated to NKS2, they would have a lot better control layout, similar to something like Haifa did when we looked at that a second ago, and it would probably have a prettier graphic. But that said, we still get a really nice hands-on control feeling with the knobs and the direct parameters shown here on the screen. So I've talked a lot about the pros of this device. I think, what are the cons? For me, there's not a lot. You just need to know it's a MIDI controller. Sometimes I see comments on my channel of people being like, I'm so excited to plug this new keyboard in and then make sounds with it, like actually record audio out of the keyboard. And MIDI controllers, I think most of my audience, most people know this, they are designed to send digital information that will then trigger audio to come out of a destination device. They are not devices that inherently make sound on their own. I wouldn't call that a con of this device by itself, just more of a limitation of MIDI controllers that people should keep in mind if they don't know for whatever reason. But overall, I'm really excited to use this more. I'm excited for more software to get updated to the standard. So far in my testing, I think for whatever reason, how I installed it, or how I installed the software that they had me use pre-release, I haven't been able to get the DAW function to work. That's probably just on me and the fact it's pre-release software. Loopop's video clearly shows the DAW functions working, so I'm guessing I just did something wrong or something is coming down the line that will make that smoother. This is not out yet, and I think it comes out in October. Like I said, Native Instruments sent this over to me, so, even though that's basically true of anyone with a video up today, still recognize that everyone kind of has a bias there. There's a lot of conversation on YouTube and music YouTube right now about like shills and, free marketing versus, I don't know, I just make sure you take anything about gear that is given to people with a grain of salt. So know that, yes, this was given to me, and I'm extremely grateful for that, but it obviously probably has an impact on how I view the device, which I will say is very positive. Like, I'm not holding back some secret negative stuff. You probably know, if you've seen my channel before, that if I have a problem with the device, I will say so, including Native Instruments. I had plenty of issues with the Machine Plus when that came out, but this really does feel like an obvious evolution and a really good evolution of an existing product line. I want to show you one other feature I think is really cool, really quick. So if you go into Play Assist and you go into Scale, you have all these different banks and modes and root notes that you can set your scale in, which is by itself really cool. But instead of having it on easy or mapped, what I think is really cool is you can have it on guide. And if you hit shift and scale, it'll turn it on. And so what you're seeing here is that as you change the root note, you're going to change the, the scale that is being highlighted on the guide lights. And I can't remember if this was in the Mark II or not, although these lights are way better than what's on the Mark II. And you can control the brightness of the lights. So right here, I can turn them very low or very high, which I think is awesome. And you can control display brightness as well. But if we go back to our device, I have found this really cool. As someone who mostly plays keyboard by ear, I've had lessons before, I've learned chords and things like that, but it is still really nice to kind of not be locked sonically into a scale, because it will let you play off notes, but it's highlighting the ones that are in scale. And I think this is like a kind of a niche feature maybe, but it's really cool and I've been really enjoying it. So I think I'll just play with it for a little bit, record some audio of, how this actually sounds. And if you have any questions about this, feel free to ask me in the comments below. I hope you have enjoyed watching this video, and I will see you soon.